4 nights, 4 workplaces, one thing in common: shadows that move when you're alone, stairwells empty, yet footsteps follow, elevators silent, yet someone's there, offices and storage rooms where doors lock themselves or don't, whispering, a misplaced folder, a pallet jack out of place, a badge reader logging every step, every routine turned upside down, every corner hiding someone or something, watching, waiting, learning. You think you're alone, but are you really? I was 26, working late at a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago, the kind of open office that looks modern during the day and completely hollow after dark. And that night, it was just me and the cleaning crew somewhere on another floor. I remember checking the time on my screen, 9:47 p.m., and telling myself I'd leave after fixing one last headline. That's when I noticed someone standing near the glass conference room across from my desk. It was Brian from Analytics, not my team. Not my project. He waved casually, like it was normal to see each other this late. Didn't know anyone else was still here, he said. I laughed it off and said, deadlines don't care about clocks. He nodded, stepped closer, and leaned against the table like he'd been meaning to talk. He asked what I was working on, then how long I'd been there, then, without looking up, what time I usually left on nights like this. I hesitated, then gave a vague answer. He smiled like that was enough. A few minutes later, he was still there, scrolling on his phone, not saying anything. I packed my bag just to signal I was done. Heading out? He asked immediately. I said, yeah. He stood up too fast. Same, he said, even though his computer was still asleep. We walked toward the elevators together, footsteps echoing louder than they should have. The elevator indicator stayed stuck on another floor. Brian glanced at the stairwell door. Stairs are quicker, he said. I almost said no, but I was tired and didn't want to make it awkward. Inside the stairwell, the air felt colder, the kind that smells like concrete and dust. Our steps bounced off the walls. After one flight, he spoke again, quieter. You park in the garage, right? I stopped for half a second before answering. Yeah. Lower levels? He added. That's when my stomach dropped. I asked why he was asking so many questions. He laughed softly. Relax, just making conversation. At the next landing, the door above us closed with a heavy metallic thud, sealing us in. Brian slowed down until he was behind me. You don't need to rush, he said. We've got time. And in that moment, I realized something was very wrong, but I hadn't figured out what to do yet. I didn't turn around right away. Controlled, low voice. I kept walking, counting my steps like that would keep me calm, but I could feel him close behind me. Close enough that his breathing started to sync with mine. At the next landing, I pretended to check my phone, buying a second to think. The stairwell light flickered once, then steadied. Brian stopped too. Uneasy pause. You always seem stressed, he said gently, like concern. I noticed things. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about walking me out. He hadn't just noticed tonight. He'd been noticing for a while. I straightened up and said I was actually going back upstairs, that I forgot something. He didn't move aside. He smiled, but his eyes stayed fixed. It's late, he said. Security already did their last round. I hadn't told him that. My chest tightened. Move, I said. He stepped closer instead, lowering his voice. You don't have to be like this. I'm just trying to make sure you get home safe. I tried to step past him, but he shifted, blocking the narrow space without touching me, like he knew exactly how much pressure would feel threatening without crossing a line. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could hear it. Then, from below, the stairwell door burst open. Footsteps, loud, rushed. Someone jogging up, talking on the phone. Brian's expression changed instantly. Oh, hey, he said, cheerful, stepping back like nothing had happened. I didn't wait. I slipped past him and took the stairs 2 at a time, not stopping until I hit the garage level. I walked fast, keys threaded between my fingers, scanning every shadow between cars. When I got inside, I locked the doors and just sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The next morning, Brian waved at me across the office, smiling, asking if I had made it home okay. Flat voice, like it was a joke we both shared. I avoided him after that. Different hours, different routes, elevators only. A month later, I overheard facilities joking near the coffee machine. One of them said, "Analytics guy keeps asking for badge logs, wants to know who stays late." They laughed. I didn't, because I finally understood what scared me the most. It wasn't the stairwell. It wasn't being alone. It was realizing how easily someone at work could track your habits, your schedule, your exits, and call it concern while doing it. And how close I came to finding out what would have happened if nobody opened that door. If this story made you rethink the people you work late with, you're not alone. Hit like, subscribe for more real workplace nightmares, and tell me in the comments, would you have trusted him or trusted your instincts? I was 31, working overnight IT support at a healthcare billing office in Phoenix, the kind of place that never fully shuts down but feels abandoned after midnight. And that shift, it was just me, the hum of servers and security cameras blinking red like they were half awake. Around 1:18 a.m., I got a ticket from accounting marked urgent, printer not responding. That alone wasn't weird. What was weird was the name attached to it, Mark, Facilities. He worked days. I hadn't seen him on nights once in the year I'd been there. I messaged back asking which floor. No reply. A minute later, my desk phone rang. "Hey," Mark said, sounding relaxed. "I'm on 3. Doors acting up too." I hesitated. Facilities handled doors. IT didn't. I said I could remote in for the printer but couldn't help with access issues. He laughed softly. "Already tried that. Badge reader's glitching. You mind coming up? Security's on break." That made my shoulders tense. Security didn't take breaks like that. Still, everything about working nights trains you not to overreact. I grabbed my badge and took the elevator up. Floor 3, lights were dimmed, motion activated, clicking on one row at a time. Mark stood near the copy room, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd been waiting. "Didn't think anyone else was here," I said. "I am," he replied, and added, "I usually am." He stepped aside so I could look at the printer. It was powered off, not jammed. Not frozen, just off. I asked why he'd put in a ticket. He shrugged. "Needed you up here." I turned to face him. The hallway behind us was dark again. "For what?" I asked. He tapped the badge reader on the wall. "This thing logs everyone," he said casually. "Times, patterns. Funny what you notice when you check it enough." My throat went dry. "Why are you telling me that?" He smiled wider. "Because you're always alone down there." The lights behind him clicked off, plunging the copy room into shadow, and for the first time that night, I realized he hadn't called IT by accident, and I wasn't sure who else knew I'd left my desk. I didn't answer him right away. I reached for the printer power button. Like fixing it would reset the moment, but my hand shook just enough that I noticed. The hallway lights stayed off behind Mark, leaving his face half lit by the copier's standby glow. "You don't need to be nervous," he said calmly. "I just pay attention." I told him I was heading back downstairs and that he could reopen the ticket during business hours. He didn't move. He stepped closer instead, close enough that I could smell stale coffee on his breath. "You know," he said, "most people don't realize how much data badges collect. Entry points, late nights, who skips breaks, who doesn't." My heart started racing. I asked him to step aside. He tilted his head like he was thinking it over. "I could," he said, "or I could walk you back. Make sure nothing happens." I pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages, and texted the security number posted at my desk, keeping the screen angled away. No immediate response. Mark's eyes flicked down anyway. "No signal up here," he said too quickly. "Concrete kills it." He reached out, not touching me, just hovering near my wrist. "You're safer if you don't make this a thing." The copy room door behind me clicked shut on its own, the magnetic lock engaging with a dull thump. "That door's on a timer. Facilities perk." My mouth went dry. I asked him to unlock it. He sighed like I was being difficult. "You're overthinking," he said. "I just wanted to talk." I took a step back until the counter pressed into my hips. Then the radio on his belt crackled. A muffled voice called his name, asking why a badge alert showed activity on 3 after hours. Mark froze. His expression shifted, irritation flashing through the calm. He answered too fast, said it was a test. A false alarm. The radio went quiet. The lights behind him flickered back on as someone moved nearby. I didn't wait. I pushed past him, yanked the copy room door as it released, and ran for the elevator, jabbing the button until it chimed. Downstairs, security finally called back, asking if everything was okay. I said it was because I didn't know how to explain it yet. The next week, Mark transferred shifts. Days only. He still smiled when we crossed paths, still asked if my nights were quiet. I stopped working overnights a month later, not because of the hours, but because I learned how easily systems can be used by the wrong person and how thin the line is between routine access and control when someone decides to watch you instead of the screens. I was 23. An HR assistant at a logistics company outside Dallas, knew enough that I still double-checked calendar invites and apologized for things that weren't my fault. That night, I stayed late to finish onboarding files, because payroll cutoffs don't care how junior you are. The office was quiet in that post-6 p.m. way, lights half-dimmed, HVAC cycling like a slow breath. I heard a chair roll somewhere behind me and assumed it was the cleaner. Then I heard my name, not shouted, said normally. I turned and saw Ethan from operations standing by the printer bank, holding a folder like he just remembered something. He wasn't HR. He didn't have onboarding access. Didn't know anyone else was still here, he said. I smiled automatically and said I was wrapping up. He nodded and glanced at the folder. Good, he said. I had a question about my file. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the tabs. Medical, emergency contact, direct deposit. My stomach tightened. I told him we'd handle it tomorrow. He didn't move. It's quick, he said. Just want to make sure it's accurate. He flipped the folder open and pointed without handing it to me. This address, is that current? I said yes before I thought about why he'd know it was there. He hummed like he was confirming something. Then he asked, and the emergency contact? That's still your sister, right? My throat went dry. That wasn't his file. That was mine. I said he must have grabbed the wrong folder. He smiled and corrected me. No, he said. I grabbed the one I needed. The printer behind him whirred to life, spitting a test page nobody had sent. The sound filled the space. HR sees everything, he added lightly. Addresses, schedules, who stays late. I told him to give me the folder. He angled it away. Not aggressive, just precise. You don't need to get defensive, he said. I'm just checking details. The hallway lights past the cubicles clicked off, leaving us in a smaller pool of light. And that's when I realized he wasn't asking questions. He was verifying answers. I reached for the folder, keeping my voice even, telling him payroll was locked and we couldn't discuss employee files after hours. Ethan didn't raise his voice or step back. He simply shifted his grip so the tabs disappeared against his chest. You're allowed, he said calmly. You're HR. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Like permission was the point. I told him to put it down. He glanced toward the hall where the lights had gone dark again, then back at me. You know what people worry about, that someone will mess up their paperwork, that a typo follows them home. He slid one page out just enough for me to see the header. My name, my start date, my emergency contact, then tucked it back in. I figured I'd save you the trouble, he added. I stepped back until my chair bumped the desk. That's not okay, I said. He nodded, like he agreed in theory. Neither is leaving files unattended, he replied, eyes flicking to the open cabinet behind me. I realized then he'd been watching me work, clocking what I opened and when. I pulled out my phone and said I was calling my manager. He smiled, softer now. He's out tonight. A conference in Denver. I hadn't told anyone I knew that. My hands started to shake. Give me the folder, I said again. He leaned in, lowering his voice. You should be careful with access. People trust you. The printer chimed again, then stopped. Footsteps echoed at the far end. Security doing rounds. Ethan's posture changed instantly. Hey, he said, stepping back, placing the folder neatly on the printer tray. Thanks for staying late. He walked away before I could respond, disappearing into the stairwell. I locked the cabinet, logged out of everything, and sat there listening to my heartbeat until security passed. The next morning, I reported it. Compliance asked questions. IT checked logs. There was no record of him accessing my file. He'd never logged in. He'd never printed anything. He'd only held it. HR told me to be more careful with cabinets after hours. Ethan transferred teams a week later. He still waved when we crossed paths. I changed my schedule, stopped staying late, and learned the part nobody tells you when you start in HR. Access isn't just power, it's visibility. And once someone decides to look at you through the systems meant to protect you, it's almost impossible to prove when curiosity turns into something else. I was 34, working night inventory at a regional distribution office in northern New Jersey, the kind of job where everything runs on routine and silence does most of the talking. And that night, I was assigned to audit a secured storage room that almost nobody liked going into alone. The building was technically occupied, security up front, a few late drivers checking routes, but the back wing where inventory lived felt cut off, fluorescent lights buzzing like insects. I signed the log, grabbed my scanner, and swiped into the storage area. The door shut behind me with a heavy click. Inside, the air was colder, the shelves tighter, stacked with sealed boxes and shrink-wrapped pallets that made the room feel smaller than it should have been. About 10 minutes in, my scanner beeped and froze. Network error. Normal glitch? I restarted it and kept counting manually. That's when I heard a cough, not loud, not echoing, close. I looked up. expecting to see someone at the doorway. Nothing, just shelves and shadows. I called out, "Security?" No answer. The cough came again, this time followed by a soft shuffle, like someone adjusting their stance. My heartbeat picked up. This room required badge access. No one should have been able to get in without triggering a log. I moved toward the exit and tested the handle. It didn't open. I tried again. Harder, still nothing. Then my radio crackled. "Inventory?" a voice said. It was Paul from Day Shift Logistics. He wasn't supposed to be in the building at night. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I'm in storage B." There was a pause on the line. "You shouldn't be," he replied. My stomach dropped. I asked what he meant. He cleared his throat. "That room was locked for maintenance. I unlocked it earlier to grab something and forgot to relog it." The explanation came too fast. I asked where he was now. "Still around," he said. "Don't move. I'll come get you." The radio went dead. The lights overhead flickered once, then again. And that's when I realized the cough hadn't come from the radio. It was coming from somewhere behind the shelves. I froze, keeping my scanner up like a shield, listening. The shuffle came again, slower this time. Closer. My breath caught. Every box shadow looked like a person. "Paul?" I whispered into the radio. Static. Nothing. I took a cautious step backwards, scanning the floor with the flashlight on my phone. The beam landed on a pallet jack I hadn't moved, metal glinting under the dim light. I swore I'd left it tucked away. Another shuffle, then a soft drag, like someone brushing the edge of a box as they moved. I backed up again, until the shelves pressed against my shoulders. There wasn't enough room to turn without bumping into something. I told myself it was a janitor, or maybe the building's facilities guy checking equipment, but no one was supposed to be back here. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence, then a voice, low, almost breathless. "Just checking." My stomach dropped. "Who?" I asked, heart hammering. No answer. I inched forward toward the door and tried the handle again. Locked. The lights flickered one more time. When they came back fully, the aisle in front of me was empty. No shadows, no sound, only the pallet jack, still out of place, as if it had been pushed into my path deliberately. I radioed security again, voice shaking. "Something's in the storage room. I don't know if it's authorized. Please hurry." Footsteps echoed from the main lane. Relief hit for a second. Someone was coming. I stepped out slowly, keeping my eyes on the shelves. But the aisle was clear. The emergency lights glowed weakly along the floor, and the pallets stood like silent witnesses. Later, when Paul arrived, he looked confused at the pallet jack. "Weird," he said. "I moved it this morning." I didn't argue. I checked the log. No other entries. Cameras didn't cover the back aisles. I realized then that whoever or whatever had been there could have waited, moved quietly, and I wouldn't have known until it was too late. After that night, I never went into storage alone again. I always brought a colleague, double-checked doors, and kept my phone in hand. The thing is, the building didn't feel dangerous during the day, but at night, in those narrow aisles, I learned something that stuck. Silence has shape, and sometimes it watches you. If that gave you chills, imagine being alone in a place that's supposed to be empty. Like, comment, and subscribe for more real workplace nightmares. And tell me, would you have gone in alone?